First time smuggling was in a Pontiac, the first car.
My dad and mom went down and said, well, we better buy us a new car. If we're going to go on vacation this year, that old car won't make it. So we all loaded up in the old car there, and it was a Chevy of some kind. But when we got down there, they were looking at the brand new cars. Now, that year was a beautiful Pontiac, 55 Pontiac. And it was just a 55 Chevy. It cost about $3,000 more, I think. You know, But anyway, the deal was that was the first car that I ever really smuggled in very much. When we went to Oklahoma that year, I'd already had a list of all these guys that wanted to buy rubbers. Because in those days, in California, you weren't going to go nowhere and buy no rubbers. Or you weren't going to go you didn't know where to get your rubbers, you know. And you don't have to have them for actual screwing. What you need to do is carry them long enough they leave a little circle in your leather wallet so that when the girls go, what's in your wallet? And they're touching the little thing, they know what they're doing. It's a game.
Yeah.
You know?
Smuggling rubbers.
Right.
And firecrackers?
And firecrackers. M80s were God. If you had M80s in California, I'm not talking the little silvers, those little pretend to be M80s. It had to be a red, big old green fuse burned underwater. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they were selling them for 8 sticks of dynamite and different calls that they were putting on to make them sound good.
You were a teenager?
But at any rate, in California, I could sell firecrackers, M80s, or explosive firecrackers. I could sell any time of the year. People were into mischief with them. They're a great distraction. And you'd be surprised if you want to shoot somebody with a small caliber weapon and set off a bunch of firecrackers simultaneously, there will be a true distraction.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I've seen every kind of which way. My friend Ron was showing off. We're walking down the street. Mary, he stuck a black cat firecracker in his mouth and lit it up, and was being all bravado there while we're walking around, 4 or 5 of us guys, and he went to spit it out, and it stuck to his lip. He just started going, like that. He couldn't get his hands up to his face because that fuse was going down so quick.
Yeah.
It bit him. It got off his lip all right.
That is funny. It blew up in his lip?
Oh, it went off in his mouth, yeah.
Oh,
His mouth wasn't closed. He was still pushing it out like that, trying to spit it off. And when it popped away from his face, but it got a big chunk of meat. It looked like it turned it white like, burns do. Anyway, we used to take them lady fingers and we'd put them in each other's pockets and light them up as a joke. And that was acceptable. I mean, a lady finger, if you're going to cry about a lady finger, you're just a sissy and you don't need to be walking anywhere with us anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway, we get down to Oklahoma and New Mexico and stuff. Well, you could buy rubbers in all those vending machines at the gas station. And you could sneak around, and even as a little kid. Now, we were still little kids, pretty young.
So,
in 1955, I was
7.
7.
7 years old was your first smuggling.
Well, I was first smuggling a contraband.
Yeah.
I did smuggle a couple of stolen items in the year before.
Yeah.
And got caught. One of them was a little porcelain hoot owl that my grandma was afraid she wasn't going to give it to me or might forget, so I took it on my own.
Oh,
we were moving, and I stuck it into the spare tire, and I thought of all the places, I better not hide it in a suitcase or nothing because somebody might stop and decide they need something. and go looking in that area.
Yeah.
I didn't plan on a flat tire. You know, in Flagstaff, New Mexico, one of the hottest places on this earth, Dad's getting out the car. What's he doing? Well, he's going to have to fix that flat, son. Whoops.
Whoops.
That little porcelain hoot owl was a part of a salt and pepper set, you know. It was just cute as a bug. Grandma wouldn't have been hurt if, you know, if, well, there was some talk about it earlier, and I told Grandma, yeah, I'd be proud to own it and take good care of it too. And he goes, you don't need that, you know, you just don't give that to that boy, he don't need it, you know. So that was kind of a deal. Grandma couldn't go against him and give it directly to me. But then again, she could forgive me if I was to accidentally have what you call that, amnesia. You know?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, you got it. Sometimes little kids from California can't adjust to the heat quick enough when they come to visit.
Yeah.
And they have little blotches of amnesia. And
you suffered from that.
yeah, and only grannies really can help you through it. If you got a problem with it, you need a grandma to interpret for you and to point you in the right direction. She was good about that. And she knew my dad from personal experience. She tried to save me when she could.
So when he changed that tire, he come up with that porcelain deal.
Oh, boy.
And he wasn't happy.
Oh, boy, he wasn't happy. He had to get out and fix that flat tire in the 115-degree desert. You just see heat waves coming up off that highway like little wiggly bands. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sometimes it'd wind had shifted, a whole big cluster of wiggly things you'd do. I thought I'd taken some acid there when I was only 7 years old. Look out there, and that heat wave would do that to me anyway. Boy, sometimes we got sick. One of the funnest times is we went into Phoenix, Arizona. Now that was a hot place. It was a dangerous place as far as gangsters and crime. They were killing each other over white crime and black and white crime.
Yeah.
But at the time it was heavy Italian trying to take over Irish, and vice versa, territorial shit. But Phoenix was right in that ball. We stopped in a really nice department, drugstore, some kind of Winslow's or something like that. But it had a big old butcher pan before you even got in. It had a little alcove of glass and stuff to the doors, but right there it had a big old butcher glass. And after its kids, we were just glowing red from being overheated.
Yeah.
And we came into that deal, and boy, I thought that was the greatest thing in the world. And it was like walking into a refrigerator or something. Like, instead of a wall of heat, it was like walking into a cold, a very welcome cold. So we went in there, and boy, it cooled me down and everything. And Mom said, "What do you kids want to have?" And I go, "Mom, could I have a milkshake?" And she goes, "Yeah, you can have a milkshake. You guys really, it'll be good as hot as we've been." So we ordered it up, and I had a hamburger, and French fries came with most hamburgers. If you had to walk into some place, you could just figure. And boy, I'll tell you, that whole deal might cost you 25 cents with the French fries and everything, but just be the best hamburger in the world. It's all greasy on top of the buns, where they laid it on a grill, you know what I mean, with oil on it still, and just slapjack, too big for your mouth.
Yeah.
Oh,
25 cents.
Yeah, so I bolted that thing right on down, threw that old cold milkshake down on top of it, and was just sitting there grinning. And the folks said, "Well, has you kids had enough? You know, is everybody good to go? As we're going to have to get back at it." So we said that we was all thankful for what we had been given, and we'd get back into the sled with a good attitude now that our bellies were full.
Yeah, and you're cooled down.
And cooled down. So I went out that same old store, and it was right on the corner of the two streets. We were across the street in the park there, that old Pontiac. And I looked up at that butcher pan when we walked through the door, and I remembered it. And I looked up there, and it went about one time around, and I went, whoa, and fogged the biggest white fog puke for about 3 to 5 feet straight out.
Oh,
just
no.
straight out, man, with chunks flying everywhere, and hamburger bits with french fries, jumping onions,
Oh, no.
and people trying to get in. Oh, the food's great.
Oh, no.
Oh, it was horrible and embarrassing and stuff. Mom tried to cover us up there with a, we better get these kids in the car, So we went back and got in that old hot car. And air conditioning in those days was you buy yourself a desert bag, which is a water bag.
Mm-hmm.
Square water bag made out of gunny sack, and it had rubber lining there. The whole deal was set up so that if you filled it with water and you hung it down in front of your radiator, when you went through the desert, the hot air would come through that bag and pick up oxygen, hopefully, and water, and cool down the radiator before the radiator had a chance to try and cool down its own job. And people carry those. And that was a drink for your radiator more. But you could drink it. Or you could pour it in your radiator if you had a leak or anything. Desert bags. Yeah. I thought one of the funniest things that I ever seen my dad do is he went out and he bought a car with an air conditioner. We were thinking of that Oklahoma trip, because it was going all the time. And then when we got up there in that car, it started getting hot. I said, Dad, could we turn on the air conditioner? He goes, no, not right now. I said, well, how come? He said, well, it's too hot, son. I said, what do you mean it's too hot? He goes, well, it's so hot outside that if we turn on the air conditioner, it'll put a lug on the motor, put an extra drain on the motor. And I go, now, do you think we'll need it in the winter? Just what are you holding back? Did you tell me an air conditioner to keep you from being too hot should not be used during hot weather? And I couldn't digest it entirely, A lot of things fooled me when I was a little kid because they didn't make sense. I'll tell you what, I had a neighbor that I respected. He was that guy, Jesse Evans Saucer. He was a stagecoach driver for Wells Fargo. And he had a run from San Francisco to Seattle. He drove a stage all the way up. He'd switch stages, passengers, and then all the way back down from Seattle. That was his run. He'd rest up a while, and then he'd have to take off again. But he was a hell of a storyteller and just a real nice old man. Especially about cowboys and stuff like that, trains, and what was going on the West Coast then at the time. But, what were we talking about just before that?
You were smuggling rubbers and firecrackers.
Right.
Pontiac, you said that was your favorite car.
Right, about that Pontiac. Well, something to do with Jesse, I don't know.
Did you ever was that like around when you were a teenager and got to drive?
Oh, no, it wasn't ever going to be like that. They traded in different cars about every 2 to 3 years at the longest they would have, because driving that old Route 66, It was not only hot, it was dangerous for several reasons. Hell, the varmints and spiders alone there could eat your family while you're trying to figure out how you're going to get this muffler back on, you know. And in those days, oh, I know what we were talking about, those buildings. About how I used to love to see if the hobos were building boat town underneath there. Well, the new act is going through New Mexico and Arizona desert, and them planks on the side of the highway. Well, I was telling you, the Indians had tipped some of them planks up enough to make a shack, and what they'd do is pull up a car next to this thing, and it could be a nice looking car. You know, they could drive it up there, and then a friend would come to visit and get drunk with them, and they'd park their car there. Next thing you know, they can't leave because something's wrong, the tires have gone flat or whatever it is, but it's still a good place to sleep when you're drunk. And they had the doors open with those little Indian blankets hanging out, and by this time their old ladies are selling silver jewelry on the side of the highway and blankets too, and they just kind of... they're living there in these cars that are worth quite a bit of money if they weren't sitting out in the middle of a desert being somebody's bedroom, you know. That fascinated me. And see them old guys, how comfortable they were, those old Indian guys sitting back in their little whatever chairs. Yeah. They'd bring couches from different places. One of the things that... the Indians in those days seemed pretty well fascinated with was bathtubs. It was common among Indians to have an affinity for bathtubs. And they had, of course, in the older settler days when the Indians were first murdering white people and getting good treasure out of wagons, some old fat gal would have herself a fancy bathtub, you know, that kind. So way back then, the Indians started collecting on bathtubs. But now, this time we were going through there and we were trying to count, my brother and I count how many bathtubs we'd seen at these places. Because you could see one place that have like 3 or 4 cars. And hell, we went by Indian Town, Dad. Oh yeah, how's that? They had 7 cars. Well, that's plenty enough to sleep 28 people or something, you know. But it was... between being funny and being amazing to me. Here we are in the middle of the desert, and just no man's land.
And there they are.
Yeah, and here they are. There'll be things like, see live rattlesnake, 18 miles. And then there'll be a berm shave sign every once in a while if you're in the right place. Berm shave was well, it was aftershave lotion, you know, and that's how they advertised it. This is a long time before any digital things, or if you had a sign on the side of the road on a billboard that had been painted by an artist of any kind, that was big money. I mean, you know, they didn't just happen by themselves. Anyway, that was that deal with the Indian thing. And that whole thing. In those days, they would always have that wine bottle or whiskey, whatever they were trying to drink. It would be underneath their little blanket with them and stuff. Women would be running around telling little kids to run around and do everything. Seemed kind of inviting to me, really. Since I was bound and determined to be a smuggler, I just walk up to any one of them Indians and tell them, I'm a big-time smuggler coming up. That's my pontiac over there. Got any rubbers? Yeah, okay, cherry bombs will work.
You got any rubbers?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny shit.
See, and then that guy would tell me, you have to go over there behind that Studebaker, the one with no wheel on the front. And don't wake my uncle up. You won't go nowhere there. You got to just go over there and ask him where Claudia is. Claudia will fix you up. He got rubbers. He still got tires on his car.
It's nice.
Why don't you walk around and introduce some of the girls to the people in Pontiac? We're gonna have a little pot walk. You can mix it up. You can clean it up later. Remember?
Yeah.
I mean, you can pick it up and do all that. Oh, that turned on a bunch of memories thinking about them old days. For one thing, the fact that they are that really old days. They're old. You just don't see deserts with wood backups on the side of the road, or Indians, or shit. I remember just trying to go to Los Gatos. There when we lived in Railroad Estates, the old town of Lexington. Wasn't no Lexington Dam, it was an Indian town. They sold rugs and all that kind of shit right there. Old Santa Cruz Highway, they call it.
That was a long time ago. You know, you're talking about the early mid-50s.
Oh, yeah.
There's some kids these days in 2021 that just, that's so far away they can't even fathom it.
I know, it's hard.
As far as like how things have changed.
Right? I think cars, lots when I was little, that had wooden spokes holding up rubber tires, but there were still wooden spokes. Model A's and T's and all that kind of things had wooden spoke wheels.
So the car had just really become commonplace with, you know, within not so many years of the 40s. What, they'd been commonplace for.
Well, you see, cars are always funny because cars, they go from brand new to really good old cars back when they were built out of the right stuff and good iron and stuff. But a modern man in the 70s may be easily driving a 60 model car, or he might even be driving, if he's a little wealthier, he might be driving a 50s model car, showing off, refurbished and everything. You know what I mean? Like, you can be modern and still have a car that's 10 or 15 years in either direction. You know what I mean? And have it be in step with your what do you ever call your Prestige?
Yeah, cars, you roll them over now. The car's 10 years old, and that's ancient.
Yeah.
And it's not worth a crap.
Well, no, because it wasn't made to last in any amount of time. It was disposable by birth, such as humans.
Them were the days when you had to get in a really, really, really bad car wreck to like fuck yourself up because the cars were so tough.
Right? And the people too.
Yeah.
You wouldn't go to the hospital for anything short of dying when I was little. You know, and poor people they'd be in a horrendous wreck and they'd look at somebody like this and go, "You okay, Bob?" "Yeah, Papa." "Yeah, we're all right. Now, listen here, I appreciate you being a little more careful next time. You got to share this road, you know. Poor people die same."
Yeah.
Your obligations in those days fascinated me too. If two men got into a car wreck driving and they didn't get out saying, "Gee, I'm sorry, fella," then they were going to get out swinging. And they may have to feel obliged to beat that motherfucker. Well, Dave, aren't you going to say nothing to him? Look what he did to your fender. And that means I should go over there and walk the shit out of him, whether he's got insurance or anything, don't matter. Well,
Yeah.
look what you done to my car, you dumb motherfucker. Driving down the road just a yakking your lips. Look what you done to that car. Who's going to pay for that? Who?
Mm-hmm.
Get your wallet out right now. Let me see what you're trying to cheat me out of. I'm sure many people were forced to get out their wallets and show what money they had. Because I tried a few of them, so I'm sure.
Make it right, yeah.
I'm sure. Oh, yeah. Well, a lot of really things that were common was two people getting a wreck and you go, well, you want to call the cops on this thing or what do you want to do? I don't need no cops.
Figure it out between the two of you.
Yeah, well, I hope you don't. I seen that half pint roll out the car door when you come over the curb, you know. Well, me neither. I got warrants, man. I got to get these hookers by the 4 o'clock. I have to pay double.
Have to pay double. You could just roll through borders back then and not have to worry about driving through the lanes, waiting.
Right. Where can a fella get some good enough food to eat around here, Bob? What do you know about this place? You've been here a while. You know, I got my family. I don't want to pull up there and get ripped off by drunken Indians thinking they're Mexicans. They get confused like that. They drink the tequila. You got to watch out. Yeah. Yep, I knew a friend of mine, a drunken Irishman. He married up with a Chinese woman and they had some kids. Oh, they's good-looking little guys and gals that run around here all doing what they were doing. You know, the Chinese and the Irishmans and they started off running a laundromat. Family laundromat, but they're so drunk they couldn't get the clothes clean. Then they went into the Irish stew noodle soup. That didn't wash out any good. Wasn't enough beans in either one of them to carry it, you know.
Not a lot of beans in noodle soup.
Yeah, well, she's Chinese. You can't expect her to get everything right. Recipes included. Worked for the railroad for a while. He claimed he was an electrician. Went through the Pawnee Nations and put in some electric there on the reservation. He claimed to be the first one to wire ahead for a reservation.
Really?
Wire ahead a bathroom for a reservation.
It's good to be first at something.
Well, if it's as old as that joke, it'd be in trouble.
That's starting to have some kick.
Good. don't know what we're gonna have to do with. Did these gals here ever get a name? Brett's little sisters.
I don't think so.
One of them is a Julio, or what is it? Rolos. The hell's the name of them Tojo plants like we got? One of them is a
Gelato?
Gelato. But what was the other one?
I just remember there being the 3 strains. I don't remember the. Oh, I'm good. Was it cherry something?
Cherry blossom? Cherry. It was cherry something. So was mine on there. Cherry. Hell. Was it cherry blossom?
That sounds.
Huh?
That sounds right.
Oh well. It'll be either good or not good. I'm gonna lay this down.
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm gonna go in here and look at this subdivision.